maybe they have a different gender expression or a different sexual expression, they're not accepted into that academy, and not necessarily that they want to be even, but this kind of thing still irks me, so I'm curious about that.
Well, I was raising a question. I'm not sure that I can really provide answers either, because I am still on my path and my struggle, as a woman, as a writer, as whatever I am. And I would say that that's something we should continue to talk about through the week, because I was asking because I wanted, another perspective. I think that the things are changing. But also something that Stephen said occurs to me is that there seems to be an attitude that exclusion is a good thing in some circles, that if too many people do something, it can't be all that good. So when you include people who previously have been excluded, as we've seen with the whole debate over affirmative action was never about getting people who can't do something to do something they can't do. It was about more people being able to do something that they can do. But this attitude that if women are included, if people of color are included, if people of diverse sexualities are included, if people with disabilities are included, then somehow whatever it is that we're doing is demeaned and diminished, and it loses its value because it's valued more, and I think if we think about, say, a diamond, diamonds are actually very plentiful, and they create the value by limiting how many diamonds come on the market. Diamonds are very, very plentiful, but think about how much they cost because the market is controlled. And I think about that in relation to art, and particularly poetry as well.
Fully, and I'm just responding to, Anne's comment, recalling Joanne's comment a while ago about the news, and hoping that no one would make that comment now. And unfortunately, I had a sort of similar experience when I was in undergrad, actually, and I had written my first novella, a 90-page piece, that I just thought of as a story, nothing, no great feminist tract or anything. Just my story as I wanted to tell it, and I brought it to my professor, and he read it, and he had very few comments, but one of the comments that really stuck with me was that there were quote-unquote not enough male characters in my story, which, it's just completely baffling to me, but along those same lines, you write a story with all women, there's no men in it, and you're not saying that there are no men in the world, you're just saying that within the universe of this story, there are not a lot of men, and it gets labeled as feminist writing or, revolutionary or just plain bad, I don't know. And so just the interesting idea that, I guess, marketing versus content, you want to separate the author and the text, but then you find yourself under feminist writing when you go into a bookstore. So I've always been sort of troubled by the idea of authorship and text, and I don't want to be a woman's writer, I just want to be a writer, and yeah.
Elizabeth Bishop refused to be in anthologies of women's poetry.
Well, I think besides marketing and content, I think that also brings up a question of ways of reading, and I think to Harriet, brings up the whole issue again of categories, and I think that we are unfortunately trained and have to break this to think within specific categories or specific restrictions, and so if we're presented with something that is very different from what we are, then it's hard to comprehend that within our framework, and so it becomes other. And the part of what I think is changing is that more difficult work is being accepted in popular culture, and so people are sort of becoming more used to difference in reading, and I think it's definitely a change. It's still slow going. I think a lot of things need to be shifted more than identity, but also, you know, what we accept as storytelling or what we accept as plot or, you know, whatever. So I think all of that.
Great, yeah.
Gary Parrish. I just wanted to say, first of all, growing up for me and reading Ian's work, Joanne's work, I never made the distinction between the other people I was reading, who you guys were categorized with. I only saw it as beauty, and both of you had longevity to go through that. I wanted to say that first when comments were made earlier that it was a little harder. My question is, and this is kind of for the whole panel or anybody who can make a distinction, when you first started writing and you come out and you're going, I know that there might be certain distinctions that you guys had to work with or certain ways that you guys had to write. What is the difference between the times when you were first starting out and now? Maybe like a specific.
I'm just the moderator. Well, I was so involved with community, and that made a lot of, so, the idea was to invent your own world and create your own, which is what we try to do here, and which so many of you do and carry on. So I think, and certainly this comes alive in the secret location of the Lower East Side. You didn't have to wait around for somebody to come and discover you. We were lucky at St. Mark's Church in the Bowery to have Bob Amison, who happened to work at Bob's Merrill, who was coming around because he lived in the neighborhood and was a bohemian and writer and loved theater primarily. And he first discovered Sam Shepard and Murray Mednick and got onto me and some of the things that were going on. So that was just a sort of strange fluke. And then Fast Speaking Woman, I think it was Lawrence Ferlinghetti who heard me read that poem, and he liked my boots. That's what he told me later. And he said, if I publish that poem, can I have a picture of you with those boots on? No, I adore Lawrence, and he's a great track record, and I've never felt anything, more than great affection and camaraderie. It was sort of a joke, but in terms of now, we're ruling the world here. Come on,
Wait till you see how many people have boots in here tomorrow.
Anyway, things, as has been said, things have gotten better thanks to a great degree to people like Renee, who continue are doing, publishing, editing other people's works, bringing along younger experimental writers. Look at Chip Delaney's writing, which just paved a way in a genre of science fiction, but was doing so much more than that genre had been doing. So, everything we do is adding to this, sort of opening the field, so to speak, I would say. I just feel that we're on, in a way, being part of that crest of women with, in my generation, was Bernadette Mayer and Alice Notley and a number of others, but, specifically, I felt